let's move over to streaming wars. And it looks like Netflix are set to bid for the Champions League games, Champions League football, not soccer, as Americans will say. If there's any Americans in the chat, it's football. You know, you play with your feet and you kick the ball, is football. But let's get into this, man. This news came out last night, and I was like, what? So it says here, UEFA targets streaming giants in Champions League broadcast rights revamp. European football chiefs want global streaming giants to bid for Champions League rights when they take the 2027 to 2033, geez, that's a far into the future cycle, to the market next week. UC3, the joint venture between UEFA and European football clubs, the new name for the European Club Association, announced it is starting the tender process for Europe's 5 biggest markets: France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and the United Kingdom, on the 13th of October. It will be the first rights cycle run by American agency Relevant, who replaced UEFA's long-term global sales partner Team Marketing in 2024 and the European governing body and the top clubs. But yeah, it's clear to see, if you own a Netflix account, Netflix are clearly pivoting to live events. As I mentioned in this article, they had the recent NFL game last Christmas. I think it was on Christmas Day, actually, with Beyonce performing at halftime. They also had the recent boxing matches with Tyson, I think it was Jake Paul. There was it Canelo and who was it? Terence Crawford, I think it was. So Netflix are pivoting to live events. And, you know, I've spoken about this streaming wars on my show many, many times. And, you know, streaming is no longer a lucrative business. You know, that it's not the business that people thought it would be, especially during COVID. You know, the streaming giants put so billions and billions thinking that people were going to stay home. This was the new norm. And turns out that's not the case. And now we have a fragmented market with streaming platforms. And now it's become an expensive luxury. When Netflix first entered the scene, it was revolutionary. Fan favorite TV shows, movies, and then you had original content as the platform developed, you know, all for a price that felt fair. You know, the price you didn't mind paying. I think at the time it was like $8.99 or £10 a month. Fast forward to now, you've got Amazon, Apple, Paramount Plus, Disney Plus, even Channel 4, ITV. The market is crazy. So the money that these guys make is not what it once was before COVID. And now, if you were to have all of the streaming platforms to watch all the stuff that you want, you're looking at almost £100 a month now, which is back to cable television prices, which is what we wanted to get away from when streaming first came out. So with this news, I am excited that football is evolving. Honestly, I think that as a sport, it has become stagnant compared to other major sports. When you watch basketball, when you watch baseball, tennis, Formula One, it's a lot more engaging. It's a lot more fun to watch. But I think football has stayed stagnant. So this makes sense as to why UEFA are now looking to the streaming giants and saying, hey, we want you to bid for the Champions League, because the streaming giants have a different way of thinking compared to the cable broadcasters. The cable broadcasters are not as agile as streamers, and they think old school. Whereas the newer age that we're in now at the moment, you know, we've got the YouTubers, Arsenal Fan TV, DR Sports that are pushing the critiquing and talking about the game online. And then now you're starting to see the CBS guys with Thierry Henry, Kate Abdo, and Micah Richards now trying to blend that modern day football fun on the couch with your boys, chatting, talking and laughing and joking, but still trying to create a good show that respects the game. So we are now starting to see football evolve, and I like that. But my concern is that if Netflix or any of the streamers get Champions League, and Amazon, I think this is the last season, or last season was the last season that they show Champions League games. But if one of them get the full rights for the major markets, prices are going to skyrocket 100%. The prices are going to be insane. And more importantly, it's going to add another gatekeeper to a sport that should be accessible to the masses. Football, out of most of the the sports that people can earn a lot of money from, football mainly comes from a working class background. It's not like Formula One where you need to be rich to get into the sport. So making it not accessible to the masses, I'm not a big fan of. You know, back in the day, we used to be able to watch Champions League football on ITV, and they produce some of the most classic moments. One that jumps to mind is the Ronaldinho toe poke against Chelsea. That is a memory that will always stick with me. So whilst I'm happy that football's modernizing and jumping into the new gen and it's going to be on streaming, I can watch it on my phone, I can watch it on my iPad, I do have a slight concern that I don't want them to completely gatekeep the sport. You know, if a streamer does get the rights, I really hope, which they have done here or there in the past, I hope that they make, you know, some of the games free to air. They did that on YouTube. I think there was a Champions League final or semi-final for the Europa League or Champions League, one of them. But they made it free to air so everyone could watch it.